Now I will. There we go. I don't know where that's recording to, but it will be fine. Let me just check our settings a moment just to make sure that everything is ready to go for you to be able to see what I am doing. Okay, I think we are ready to go. Oh, we've got somebody. I'll just let those in. So, just while a few people are still joining us, welcome to this week's LEUK Insiders. This week is going to be all about prep. So, we're going to be covering everything that you need to know about the correct prep for all of the Light Elegance products. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Jojo and I am the co-owner of Ellie UK with Layla. She is usually on giving me a helping hand on the back end of things, but she's not available today. So let's hope technology is on my side. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. And I have been a nail tech now for over 20 years and I've been using Light Elegance for the last 10 years. I found Light Elegance because I became allergic to basically everything. And so Light Elegance pretty much saved my career. And here we are today, 10 years later. I've been an educator for them for almost just as long. I've been to HQ, I've taught for them internationally. So if there's any questions about anything related to Light Elegance, just throw them at me. So you can put any questions that you have in the chat box at any time. I will be kind of checking periodically as I work through the practical part to see if we have any questions. And then at the very end, if there is anything that you feel like you want to verbally ask, we can open up the floor for any verbal questions as well at the very end. So I'm just trying to think if there's anything I've missed. There will be a discount code at the end of this session, so make sure you stay tuned. That is exclusive to Insiders Live, so you only get that within the live, and it's only available until the weekend. So once this recording goes up on YouTube for all to see, the discount has expired, so it is an insider exclusive. I know one of the things when switching to Light Elegance from other brands, especially if you're used to a brand that adheres really well with very minimal prep, the main thing that people tend to have an issue with is the longevity because they're not prepping correctly. And it's not that they are knowingly not prepping correctly. They're doing what they've always done, but maybe it's just that that isn't quite correct for Ellie. I was really lucky when I switched to Ellie that the prep was pretty much the same as what I'd been using with products I'd been using before. So I actually didn't experience those problems. And from the bat, I had huge success with longevity. My clients were lasting longer than ever before with any other product that I'd used. So give you a little bit of confidence there that if you are struggling at all, that once you get the prep right and you get the combination of your products right, you should have really happy clients whose nails just last for weeks and weeks. I'm just going to check the chat, make sure we haven't got any questions before we start. Doesn't look like it. I'm hoping everyone can hear and see me okay. And we will get started. So I'm going to switch off my camera and microphone here, and I'm going to switch over to my overhead camera for the practical part. So bear with me 10, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and I will be back. Okay, bear with me a second, guys. I think I've got the. Could someone let me know in the chat that you can hear me? I seem to have got the mic working, but for some reason it doesn't seem to want to start the video. Ah, there we go. I think it's come to life. Okay, I'm going to spotlight that and hopefully you can all see under here, hopefully. Right, I'm just going to zoom that in so that you can see the important part, which is the hand, which I will just get ready now. I'm just popping my gloves on. So I'm going to take you through every step of your prep from the minute that the client sits down in your chair to the moment where you would usually apply your bonder, primer, etc. Once your client has obviously washed their hands and sanitized, so we want to make sure that the hand itself is nice and clean. We do then want to ensure that the nail itself is clean. This is a step that I see so many people skip, and I do understand. I'm just going to bring the camera a bit closer to me. There we go, that's better. I do understand that it feels like a step that, you know, do I really need to cleanse the nail because they've just washed their hands? Surely the nail is clean. But actually, it's not clean. It's not clean the nail. We've washed the hands. We've got rid of contaminants. We've got rid of bacteria and the like, but we haven't actually cleansed the surface of the nails. And there is likely going to be oils, residue on the nail, potentially from the hand wash that they've used. Maybe the sanitizer that you use has got fragrance or color in it. That's all got a potential to leave residue on the top surface of the nail. And what we don't want to do is when we're prepping the nail to actually be pushing all of that residue into the nail plate, because that's not going to help us with adhesion. And we also want to make sure that our prep is super effective. So if we are using our cuticle pusher or our e-file bits, can you see the difference there compared to before I cleansed and after I cleansed? So it's just removed all of the oils from the nail. I use hand cream 100,000 times a day. So there was probably a bit of residue of that on my nail. So it's really important to make sure that it's nice and clean so that when we're going in and prepping, especially removing the non-living tissue or removing the shine from the nail, that we're actually working on that nail surface and it's not just removing the residue that was left on the nail surface itself. I'm going to start off with the cuticle pusher. So I've got my LE Pro cuticle pusher here, which has a rounded end and a blade end. Super important. You want those two different ends to start your prep. So the start of the prep is going to be the same whether you are a manual prepper or an e-file prepper. So I'm going to show you manual first, and then I'm going to switch to e-file because for me, I will always start with manual first. It removes the majority of the non-living tissue, and then I can really then refine my prep with my e-file. I know a lot of people go straight in with e-file. You are far more likely to damage the natural nail than if you start off by doing your cuticle prep with your manual tool. So I'm just pushing the skin back there. You can see not too much has come off of that nail plate. And then I can go in with the bladed end. And this is where we really start removing that non-living tissue. And you'll notice that when I do this, I'm not just pushing near the proximal nail fold at the very back. I'm going right over that nail plate. And the reason being that, especially if you've got somebody who has nothing on their nails, who knows when the last time was that their cuticles were done. And what happens is the non-living tissue adheres to the natural nail. As the natural nail grows out, little bits of that non-living tissue will stay adhered to that natural nail. And so you can end up with non-living tissue that you can't really see by eye, but it's definitely going to affect the wear and the adhesion of the product that you apply over the top. So you can see we've got a nice amount of that non-living tissue coming off there. And then I just like to come around the proximal nail fold and just remove that. Oh, I did forget my duster brush. Bear with me. There's always something that is forgotten. So I like to use two different duster brushes. I've got my Light Elegance duster brush, which I do for kind of general uh, dust removal. And then I also have one of these little manicure brushes. You can get them really cheaply online, and they're just really handy to use in between movements. So where I've done all of that removal there, I would go in with my regular duster brush. When I come onto the e-file, I like to use the little one in between so I can make sure I'm really seeing what I'm doing as I'm doing that prep with the bit. So when you are manual prepping, you just want to make sure that you're using that cuticle tool to come around that proximal nail fold and remove any non-living tissue that is in the nail fold. If you are only manual prepping, you're just going to kind of go ahead and repeat that until the area looks nice and clean. However, efficiency, e-file, nothing can beat it. So we are going to use our zippy e-file today. And I'm going to begin with the itty bitty bit. This is a small narrow diamond bit, and this I'm going to use to remove any remaining non-living tissue from the nail plate and also remove what is underneath that nail fold so that we get a nice clean finish under there. That is going to make our application much neater and we can get much closer to the skin without it getting caught on any of these loose bits of non-living tissue. So I'm going to put my e-file into forward direction. I am right-handed. If you are left, you would do reverse. And I'm going to put it up at 6,000 RPM to begin with. I sometimes need to go up by 1 or 2. I wouldn't go any further than about 8,000 RPM. It's just going to be way too harsh against the skin and the nail. But 6,000 is normally enough. And then if there's some stubborn areas, it's better to put the speed up than just keep going over and over the area again. So I always angle my bits slightly. I'm never going up, pointing it into that nail fold, because if that client jolts forward, not a very nice experience, I tell you that. So we're going to go at a slight angle so that we're going to the side of the bit, which is going to be much less likely to cause any harm to the client. And we're just coming around that side of the nail folds. I'm getting cramp in my hand. That's a bad time to get cramp. I probably chose the wrong nail. Hang on, let me rearrange my... Ah, that's better. I've moved my stool. It's a little bit easier now. So the e-file bit is always flat against the nail. We are never pointing it into the nail plate. And obviously we're not going to be using it in this manner because then the bit is sticking up in the air. We want it so that it's nice and flat against that nail plate. And I am using no pressure. I am just letting that bit do the work for me. And I'm really just focusing on removing from the natural nail and underneath that nail fold. It's important not to get carried away. So, for example, you can see here I've got some white. I have naturally dry skin. What I don't want to do is separate the nail fold or the nail bed from the nail plate. So we want to be careful that we're not going too far into there. We just want to make sure that it is nice and clean. And we can come in with the cutie patootie, which we'll do in a minute, and help to refine any of the other kind of dry areas of skin. Ooh, I'm just going to zoom out ever so slightly because I feel like with it being where it was just a little bit going out of focus as I was moving. I'm just going to turn it up just by 1,000. So I've gone up to 7,000 RPM because I am seeing a little bit of dryness still there. And when I say dryness, it's like loose bits of non-living tissue that I can see underneath that nail fold. And that's looking much better. So I would do that on all nails. Always do the same step on every nail and then move on to the next step rather than prepping one nail in full at a time, because that will just take forever. So same thing again, just angling that bit. So we're starting somewhere around the middle. And again, keeping that bit nice and flat, not putting any pressure onto that nail and just letting the bit do the work for me. And actually that side is much cleaner already. You'll often find that with some nails, there'll be more non-living tissue on one side than the other. So this is what we have at the moment. We've got a nice clean nail plate. The nail fold underneath is looking nice and clean. And I'm just going to turn my e-file off. Oh, we've got someone joining. Let's let them in. And I'm going to take that out of my e-file and I'm going to swap it for my cutie patootie. This is going to help to remove any extra dryness. I know that for some people, they do like to take it where there is literally no white showing anywhere. For me, I am a very sensitive person. My skin is very sensitive, and I know that if I do that on myself, it's too much. My skin can feel quite sore. So for me, I'd rather have a little bit of white here. There's nothing loose. There's nothing that's going to get in the way of application. But I know that I'm not going to be causing any kind of sensitivity to my skin. And it's important to bear that in mind with your clients as well. If you've got somebody like me who is prone to, eczema, dermatitis, that kind of a thing, then just be mindful that they will be a bit more sensitive when it comes to cuticle prep. So I'm just using this at 6,000 RPM. And I'm just repeating the movement that I did with the itty bitty. And I'm using the corner to kind of buff the proximal nail fold, while the flat of the bit is against the nail plate. And we're coming around that way. You can, with this bit, you can use it in that manner where you're using the flat edge against the skin. For me, it's just habit. I just always put it at an angle because I'm used to doing that with the other bits, because I don't want to cause any damage to anyone. And then I'm just using the side of the bit just to lift up that proximal nail fold so that we can kind of see more easily what is dead. Especially if I angle it this way, you can see it a little bit more easily. What is dead, what can be removed, and what we want to leave alone. So I'm going to turn that off, take that e-file bit out. We do also have the buffy bit. This is more designed for around the skin. Never ever use a rounded bit like this on the nail plate, because you will create grooves in the nail because it doesn't have a flat surface. It will create divots in the nail plate. So be really super careful with that. For me, I prefer to use this at the end of the service. Some people, again, prefer to use it at the beginning when they do all of their prep together. But I really love to use this at the very end when I've applied cuticle oil, and I'll just save it for those clients that are super dry. If you've got clients who they get hangnails all the time, if they're prone to like picking or chewing at their skin, use this with cuticle oil at the very end. It buffs the oil into the skin, which is going to increase the moisturization that you get from the oil. And it also makes it super smooth. So there's nothing that they can pick at when you've buffed with this and the cuticle oil. So once we've done that, I am not going to do any kind of trimming just yet, because I'm going to file the surface of the natural nail, and I don't want to have like fresh skin when I'm coming in with a nail file over the top surface. So I'm going to leave it at this point and I will come back to that. So I'm going to use the 180 grit side of the Lexi file. And if you use the Lexi files, if you didn't know this already, just a little handy tip, if you're always like, oh, which side is it? The side with the text on is the side with the higher grit, so the softer side. So this one, the one with the writing on, is the 240 grit, and then the side without the writing is the 180 grit. And we're going to use the 180. So the 180 is going to give us enough of a removal of shine. It's also going to create some texture on the nail. So I see a lot of people use buffers, especially, like the block buffers, to prep the nail. The issue with that is that while it removes the shine, it makes the nail extremely smooth. And then when you're applying product to it, the product has a hard time grabbing onto that nail surface because it's super, super smooth. Even though it is technically matte, the smoothness doesn't help with adhesion. So we're not going to be doing aggressive prep, but we do want a little bit of texture left on the surface. So we're going to start nearest the proximal nail fold, and I'm always bringing the file toward myself and always in one direction. So you'll never see me going back and forth when it comes to the prep of the natural nail. And we just really want to do enough to remove that shine, and that is it. We are not going hell for leather on the natural nail plate, and just come in across that free edge area and then working back towards the proximal nail fold. And I am using no pressure on this file. I am just letting the file do the work. Make sure you use your light. If you feel like there is an area nearest the proximal nail fold that is not or has not had the shine removed, just use the end of the file just to lightly etch that area. You don't need any like silly tools for that. You just use the end of the file. And then give that a good old dusting off. Oh, me sending my wipes everywhere. And then just use your light to make sure that all the shine is removed. I can just see a little bit through the left side there. And pay attention to the sides. And as I say, nearest the proximal nail fold, because that is the areas that normally, if anything gets missed, it's those areas. If you want to do any filing of the free edge, you can. If I was applying a gel polish, I definitely would do that. If I'm applying Jimmy Gel or Lexiline with a free edge of this length, I would not file before the product. I would file after the product has been applied. We are big fans here of filing that free edge after product application. So you would not need to file that. Once that is done, you have two options. If you are applying a coating that you are going to be finish filing, as in surface finish filing, then leave any trimming until after you've done that finish filing. Two reasons. One is that, as I mentioned before, when we trim that area, we're going to have fresh new skin. It's going to be more sensitive to the feeling of a file going round that area. Secondly, is that actually in your finish filing procedure, you may find that actually it kind of semi buffs that area anyway, and that actually you have less trimming to do. So always do that after you've done your surface finish filing. Make it kind of your last step before you then apply your colour over the top, or your top coat if they're not having a colour over that. But I'm going to treat this as if I was doing a no file technique. So I'm not going to be doing any finish filing, and I'm just going to come in and remove the excess from the cuticle area. So I'm basically looking at trying to get it to zoom without going out of focus. Hopefully you can see there we have this white line that's kind of appeared at the top from where we lifted it with that cutie patootie. That is all we are going to trim. I don't want to be going too far because it's going to potentially cause sensitivity, but also is going to potentially cause it to grow back much more aggressively, which obviously we definitely do not want. So I'm going to take my Lafine Pro nippers. Honestly, if you do not have these nippers, if you buy one thing from this live, let it be these, because these are the sharpest nippers I have ever used in my life. They do have quite a large blade, and I know to some people that might be a little bit intimidating. I'll be honest, when I got the sample of them, I thought myself, oh, I don't know about this. The blade looks quite big, but ignore the rest of the blade and just concentrate on using the tip, because that is what's going to give you your precise cut. So I'm going to start at the right side, and I always hold my nippers like this in my hand so I can see the full top view, and it gives me much more control than if I'm coming over the top like this. It's really awkward. Your hand is just in a really awkward position. It's much easier to position it like this. I know it feels awkward when you first start, but trust me, once you get used to it, you will never go back to holding them the way you did before. And what we want is to trim this in one go. And the reason that we want to try and do that is it's going to give us a much cleaner effect around the skin, around that proximal nail fold. If you're just trimming bits like here, there, and everywhere, it ends up leaving quite a jagged finish. And while it doesn't look like anything to you at the time that you've done the trimming, when that client leaves, within the couple of days after, they'll start getting little bits of skin that kind of start becoming loose, and then they're going to pick it. So it's really important that we try and get it off in one movement. So when you come here, just make sure that you are angling that nail so that you are still just using the tip of the blades. And obviously always ask your client, how does it feel? Does it feel okay? It's not feeling uncomfortable. As long as you're trimming that white area, shouldn't have a problem whatsoever. We are almost. We can come from the other side. How satisfying is that? We can come from the other side and meet that in the middle. Oh. Okay, so that is what we have. And that is your nail prep done. And then, of course, the last step, which again, we cannot forget, is to cleanse that natural nail. So give it a really, really good scrub. You want to scrub it for at least 5 seconds. None of this, like give it a wipe, move on to the next nail, give it a wipe, move on. Really scrub that nail with the cleanser. Ele Pro Cleanser is your best option, purely for the fact that it is a blend of acetone and isopropyl alcohol that has been formulated to provide the best adhesion. The other reason is that a lot of cleansers have fragrance and or color, which can again leave residue on that natural nail. So we want to make sure it's nice and clean, ready for product application. You can see there that we've got a nice clean finish around the skin. The nail plate is nice and matte, and it is ready for product application. So that is your prep routine. Does anyone have any questions? It's very quiet today. Last week's group were very there were lots of questions going on. It's very quiet. But hopefully that just means that it's all making sense. Right, so what I'm going to do, I am going to switch from this camera back to my computer so I can talk to you properly, face on. So bear with me for the next few seconds while I switch that around. Hello, I'm back. Let me just spotlight myself. There we go. Right, so do we have any questions? You can either put it in the chat box or you can jump on, you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. While I just allow for some time for questions, just to let you all know that your discount code for this week is PREP20. So that's PREP20. And that gives you 20% off of anything that I have shown you today, any of your prep products. So it includes your cleanser, your cleansing wipes, cuticle pusher, cuticle nippers. It also actually includes the Zippy e-file. So if you have been thinking about replacing or getting a new e-file, then now is a great time because it works out that you get like 80 quid off or something. So yeah, definitely one to use. And you also have your option of Klarna, PayPal at checkout. So if you want to spread the cost, you still get the benefit of that 20%. So that 20% discount runs until Sunday at midnight. And if you are interested in eFile but you have not trained, then go ahead and check out our eFile training classes. Currently, they are in person only. So you'll need to see which one is closest to you. But if you can't see a class that is near to you, feel free to get in touch with us because we're always interested to hear from people who are interested in training but are struggling with location because it really just helps us to decide on extra classes that we can provide on top of our standard education locations. Kelly says, do you have to do e-file training to get the Zippy? I already have an e-file certificate for another trainer. Yeah, absolutely fine. You don't have to have trained directly with us to have the ability to be able to buy an e-file. If you log in and you cannot see the e-file option, if it's still looking like you can't see the pricing or add anything to your cart, you can go into your account. And we've actually updated our account approval process now. So if you log in on your account, you'll see in the menu there's a page for something like activate pro account or something like that. And you can upload your e-file certificate there and it will automatically update your account. Alternatively, just send us an email with your certificate and we can update it manually ourselves, whichever is easier for you. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. So, does that go for the e-file bits too? Yes. So all of the e-file bits. So actually all of the e-file bits. I was lazy and I couldn't be bothered to split the e-file bits up for the discount. So you can get discount on all of the Zippy and the Z bits, not just the bits that I've shown you today. So again, a good time to stock up. Always recommend having multiple e-file bits because then you don't have to be cleaning them in between, which is going to be so much better for your e-file because if your bit isn't completely dry and you put it into your e-file, you're going to be causing rusting within that handpiece. So it's really important to have multiples that you can use throughout the day and then clean them all at the end of the day, ready for your next day. Righty, well, I think that is everything we've whizzed through today. Thank you so much for joining. I really hope that you've enjoyed it, you found it helpful, or that maybe you've learned something new, or maybe it's just a bit of a refresher that maybe you are doing things right. If you've got any questions at any time, please do always send us an email. The email is info@lightelegance.co.uk, and it's myself and Layla that manage those emails. So if you've ever got any queries about anything application related, education related, just send it in to us and we can help you with that. The next Insiders Live is going to be in 2 weeks' time. I'm not sure on the exact date just yet. You'll get an email with the information. And I think, don't quote me on it, but I think it's going to be the brand new collection. So we've got spring, summer coming soon, and I don't actually have them in my hands just yet. They've not actually arrived into the UK yet, but I'm hoping that they will arrive this week, which means that we will be able to showcase them to you in the next Insiders Live. And a little sneaky peeky, or not a sneaky peeky, but a little extra surprise is that you guys will actually get first access to that collection. So I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work just yet. It might be that we give you access when you join the Insider Live. I'm not entirely sure, but you will have access to purchase that collection before anybody else. So in the UK, that is. Our official launch date is not decided just yet because of the fact we're waiting on the stock to arrive. And we've done that before where we've decided the launch date before the stock comes and then the stock is delayed and it causes a lot of stress. So we've got an idea in our minds of when it will be. But we'll keep you all updated. Make sure you stay tuned on our socials and keep an eye on your emails for your updates. We'll send out a recording of this session by Wednesday, should be, with a reminder of the discount code as well. So if you want to watch this back, if you joined halfway through, you can do. Sadie asks, just trying to log in and asking for certificate, do we upload LE certificate? So any of your nail certificates you can upload. And when you go to your account page, it should say, there should be an option at the top there to activate your pro account. If you go to that page, you'll see that you can fill in your information and upload your certificate there for approval. But yeah, any problems, just send us an email and we will do our best to help you as best we can. But thank you so much again for joining. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Have a good week and we will see you then. Thank you all. Bye.